Man, after all this stuff going on in my life, I still keep thinking about that Ding Dang Frog show. Oh well, moving on from it takes a lot of time. I mean, the show didn't end that long ago. It's already been 1 year? What the fuck? Despite it being a year since Amphibia has officially ended, and other great shows airing since then, the show still dominates my mind, and you can see that if you look at my videos and tweets that I put out over the past year. Sure, I made a fair amount of Owl House videos for its final season, and I am starting to explore other shows beyond the two sister shows, like The Ghost and Molly McGee for example, which I highly recommend. But even so, Amphibia is still my favorite show to discuss and make videos for. Frankly, I can make videos about this show for years to come, even if I don't earn anything in return from it, because that's how much I enjoy it. Although if you guys would like to give a few dollar tips, I do have a Patreon and Coffee page. The link to them will be in the description. Okay, enough of that shameless plug there. You guys want to know how good is Amphibia's finale after all this time, and how does it compare with other Disney cartoon finales? Simply put, Amphibia still has the best finale out of any Disney cartoon in recent years, beating out even Weirdmageddon and Watching and Dreaming, at least in my opinion. There are some things where Amphibia's finale falls short compared to Gravity Falls and the Owl House finales, but its impact on me is very much present to this day, and part of it was due to how the show hammers home its central theme, acceptance of change. Side note, it's worth noting that The Hardest Thing was actually part of a grander 3-part finale of the show. Matt Brawley did say the finale actually starts with the beginning of the end, hence the name of that episode. So really, the Amphibia finale is like Weirdmageddon, where it's made out of 3 standalone episodes. The beginning of the end was the first act of the show's final battle, where some of the side characters get to complete their character arcs. All In was the climactic second act that involved the protagonists confronting their past mistakes and defeating their foils, which allowed them to complete their character arcs. The Hardest Thing was the third and final act, where they take what they have learned to finally get rid of the last remaining evil, but more importantly, accept that they can't stay and grow in Amphibia forever. And that turned out to be a rather controversial move by the writers of the show. Over the past year, there have been some people in the Amphibia community, even some die-hard fans, who have come out to really dislike how the series concluded. On the surface, their criticisms have some merit to them. Some people, for example, did not like how Anne's resurrection is a confusing concept to grasp. Is the Anne we see by the end of the finale really the same Anne as the one who did the sacrifice? Is she a clone of the original Anne? Or is it still the same Anne but with a new body? As much as a lot of us try to reason our way to answer this question, we still have no correct answer, and we'll likely never will because Matt Brawley wants to leave that up to interpretation. I mean, it is a philosophical question after all, so you can't really be right in philosophy. It's up to debate at that point. Another thing that some people bring up as a criticism, including me, are the things that we did not see by the end of the series. For example, why did we not see Sasha and Marcy's parents? Seriously, out of all the criticisms, that is one that I happen to agree with the most, because seeing and meeting their parents would explain a lot as to why Sasha and Marcy were the way they were before their time in Amphibia. Fortunately, the question about their parents was addressed in Marcy's journal, but I do think we could have gone more than that. But by far the most prominent criticism that I have seen against The Hardest Thing is how bittersweet seeing Anne be permanently separated from the Planters and the Calamity Trio being split up shortly after their time in Amphibia. Although most people I know have come to accept this bittersweet ending, some people just refuse to accept it and move on. To be fair, I can understand and even sympathize with those who believe that Earth and Amphibia should still be connected by the end of the series. Anne has spent the past year together with the Planters, and she has grown so much during all of that. However, by the end of the series, she's supposed to go back to her normal life for the sake of change? I'm bringing this up because some people say that the Owl House's approach when it comes to the connection of the two worlds is a lot better compared to Amphibia. At the end of that finale, Luz is still able to change and grow up for the better while still keeping contact with the found family that she has met throughout the entire show. Don't get me wrong, given the show's themes, keeping the worlds connected via a portal makes the most sense compared to permanently severing the connection, or literally combining the two worlds into one like some other show that I shall not name. But that's the thing, keeping the worlds connected makes sense for the Owl House, but it doesn't feel right for Amphibia because its core themes are different. As we know, Amphibia is all about life changes and how one must adapt to them. However, change can come in a variety of forms, and more importantly, it can be unexpected. When Marcy found out she had to move away from her friends, that was an unexpected change, and while she tried to stop that change from manifesting, she learns to accept it, through admittedly more cruel than necessary ways. When Sasha found out she can't control Anne the way she used to, she tried to deny it and reinforce her power. But after seeing the consequences of doing that, she had to accept that what she did was wrong and adapt. When Anne found out that she had to think independently and not be reliant on her friends the moment she was transported to Amphibia, she tried falling back to her old ways to take the easy path in life. But that resulted in a lot of negative consequences that we see in most episodes of Amphibia. So she learns from that experience and adapt. With all three girls, they all learned that it's better to accept the unexpected change rather than fight it, because who knows what unintended consequences could there have been if they resisted. That is why when everyone realized that the stones only have enough power for a one-way trip back to Earth, they chose to accept it, which really goes to show how far they have come. Although some people may not like the trio splitting up and Anne being separated from the planters because of how unnecessarily sad it is, the truth is that is a realistic thing that everyone will experience in their lifetime. Whether if it be a death of a loved one or moving away from your home for good, saying goodbye to a loved one is inevitable. You may not like that fact, but you have to accept it. And this show makes that abundantly clear. At the same time, the show is also nuanced with their messaging, as Anne also clarifies that when you let go of something or someone you love, they can sometimes find their way back to you. Just because you have to accept change, that doesn't mean you cannot think of the past and honor it. After all, the point of learning history is to acknowledge the past and use it to make better decisions for the now and the future. That brings me to my final point as to why The Hardest Thing is still my favorite finale out of any Disney cartoon, which is that it makes the story of Amphibia a lot more meaningful than meets the eye. When I first started watching the show, I was just looking for something that can get me through the depressing times brought about by the pandemic, and the show did a great job doing that. However, the fun and laughter we all get from watching Amphibia can only just distract us from the issues in the real world. So for the show to really have an impact on us for the better, it had to slap us with a big reality check. And The Hardest Thing was the biggest reality check that we could have gotten, considering this was supposedly marketed as just a funny frog show. Put it another way, Amphibia started out as a good distraction for the trio and the audience to get away from the real world, but the story ended up being a reminder that you have to acknowledge the real world exists. I could hammer home this point indefinitely, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that Amphibia is written in a way that is supposed to give viewers a reasonable amount of hope for the future, which is something that I think all of us could use given the state of the world right now. Although Amphibia's finale is the most bittersweet compared to other Disney cartoon finales, it's ironically the most comforting because it shows us a realistic but still hopeful message. The real world will change in unexpected ways and we can't avoid it. But regardless of what changes happen, we're all going to be alright in the end. But of course, these are just my thoughts on The Hardest Thing. What do you guys think of Amphibia's finale after 1 year since the show ended? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to Seb13 and Insert Name for contributing to the channel directly through Patreon and Ko-fi respectively. You guys really help us out, along with everyone else who watches these videos. Anyways, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.